Welcome to complete PHP deployment on the AWS server using Docker. This is a complete guide. Let's get started. Alright guys, so I have this post for you. You can go here and follow all the code from here to see how you can make your AWS setup. So for now, I'm going to get started to straight away in the AWS console. Here, what I'm going to do, you need to go basically when you come to AWS, you need to search for EC2 instance on EC2 on top. Just when you click, you come to here, you click on instances and you get the instances here. I'm going to create here just instance and launch a new instance here basically, and I'm going to give it a name of test. And we are going to deploy our PHP application on this particular instance. So when I go here, I'm gonna scroll down. We want to have Ubuntu, or you can have the Amazon Linux as well. It's up to you basically. Then you can choose any server from here, which look for the free tier one. And here, what I'm gonna do, we selected Ubuntu. This is the Ubuntu 24.04 long-term support. So if you want to hold your project for a long time, it is good to have the long-term support version of Ubuntu, and it is free tier eligible as well. So that's the one we're gonna go with. Then we go down here, nothing to change here. You can select the processor type and RAM type, what exactly you want, what you want in your instance. So T2 Micro is free tier eligible. It gives you 1 CPU and 1 GB RAM. So this is the one we're gonna choose for this tutorial. You can check any of these. You can see that this one has 4 CPUs and 8 GB RAM. And according to your needs, you can select whichever you want. But if you want to use free tier one, there is it written in front of it. So use that one. So I select the same one here. Now, key pair, you can create one. Basically, it will help you to log in command line without passing the password. So you can just create one and you can download it. For now, I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to skip this portion because we will be using the command line inside our console. So I'm going to scroll down here, networking, create a security group, and I'm going to let it create by default. It says allow SSH traffic. I'm gonna say allow everything so anyone can connect to my website and this instance from internet, from HTTP and HTTPS. So this is all allowed. Scroll down a bit here. Storage. Now how much storage you want to give. So your application, if requires, let's say 10 GB of space, you need to give here at least 20 GB of space. So that's something you need to be mindful of. So here, free tier is eligible up to 30 GBs, so you can have accordingly. In our application currently for this tutorial, I don't have much code in there and not gonna take any much space, so I'm gonna leave it to 8 GB. GB3 is the one they have using SSD storage, so you can go with this one. It is also the cheapest as well. So GP3 is going to one, and that's all there is to it for now. So what are we gonna do? We're gonna launch this instance. So I'm gonna hit launch, and here it says, let's say create test RSA .pem. So this is the file tab we're gonna get. So you get here, you can give any name here. It's not just you want this test or anything. Launch instance. Now there is the key pair. So keep it safe. If you want this application to be accessible and you want to connect it from your command line and for a long time if you have the project running, so you need to have this to be connected, so have a backup of this file. For me, it is a test application. I'm not going to keep it much, but for you it's very important if you are going to hold this project for a long time. I go to instances, then go to the test instance, click on there. Its instance is currently running, so we are totally able to now work with this instance now. So what we need to do is, so basically we need to connect with this instance now. You have the connect option on top, click that. When you connect it, basically it gives you EC2 instance connect. This is the one we're gonna use, and it is gonna let us run our commands, we will be inside the image instance. Use the command line. So I click connect, it goes inside it. Now you can see that this is our public IP and private IP as well. You can set the static IP address to your instance. For that, you just need to go to Elastic IPs, and there you can set up. Now here I am already inside my instance, so I say ls here. You can see that I can run the command. So I'm just gonna clear the screen, and before clearing screen, you can see that we have the 6.71 GB space available to us. 22% of it is already in use, and this much is your memory usage already. So 1 GB of RAM you have, and already 20% is used. So this much, it gives you the idea. All right, so here is the IP address. What I'm gonna do, I'm gonna clear it. Now if you go back to the post here, I have like how you can deploy our application, the PHP application there. So we need to create a few files. So if I scroll down here, we need to follow the structure given here. So we need to create a file, a folder, PHP folder, and there we will have two folders, Nginx and www. Inside www we have index.php. Inside Nginx we have default.configuration file, and outside of these folders we have docker compose and docker file. Now currently if I go back to instance here and I say here docker and hit it, it is gonna say like install docker. There is no docker installed. So let's do that. First we need to update our current operating system, which is Ubuntu. For that we can say sudo and apt and update. All right, so we run this command to update it, and then we can further install commands to run and install docker in our system. So let it install first, then I follow up the further commands. These commands will be available in the doc description, so you can follow the link as well. All right, at this point we should be, now let's copy this one and hit enter. Depending on your internet speed, it might take some time, so let it do its job, and then sudo apt update, and after that I'll say just install the and yes. Once all is done, we just want to paste this command to see what is happening, so we can see that docker is up and running. All right, that's good. Now I can clear the screen by tapping clear, and after that what I want to do when I install the docker, you can check the docker version as well. So docker -- version, and you'll see that what version we have installed. Now let's install docker compose, because that's the one we're gonna use, and I'm gonna use the curl to install it, and then we gonna basically make it executable, and then we can check here docker compose and then -- version. All right, so we have docker compose as well installed. So what I want to do, clear it. Now if I say here docker ps, you will get the permission denied issue. To solve it, we need to run a command and add the user to docker group. So I ran this command, but the problem is it's not gonna just do it straight away. So if I say here docker ps, it still gives me the error. So what I'm gonna do when I say here close it, and I again need to connect. So here this time I just want to click connect and hit connect again. Okay, we are connected. Let's try docker ps. You can see this time it gave me the container information. We don't have any container right now, but you can see we did not add any sudo in front of it. All right, so I clear the screen. Now what I want to do, currently we are in the main directory here. So I'm going to create the folder straight away here. If you want to change the user, you can do that. That's totally up to you, but I'm going to keep it simple and stay here. So I say here mkdir. According to our article, we need to create a folder named PHP. You might have your project name, so you can use that one. So basically, I create that way. So ls, and inside this PHP folder, I go. And there I'm gonna create a few files. So I'm gonna say here touch. This is to create the file. So we say here Docker file. And then I'm gonna say we also need the file docker compose.yml. Okay, these two files. Then we want to create two folders. One is going to be www, and another is going to be Nginx, because Nginx we're going to use. Okay, so ls, we have these directories according to the structure we have here. All right, now if I go back here inside cd www, I'm going to create here touch index.php. Okay, so what we want to do, first thing first, I go back to the article and get the code for a PHP file. So nothing, it's a echo message, so simple. So go back, put here, I see here nano touch.php. Okay, so nano is the editor. It allows you to edit the file. So I hit it and it opens up. So you can paste here whatever you want to save. So if I say Control X, I say here save or modify. So I say Shift yes, Shift and Y, and it saves it. So if I open the next time using same command, I will see that the content is there, it is saved. So I can say Control X to get out of that file, cd dash dash to get out the folder. Now I'm in the main directory, which is PHP. Now here we have ls, and we have these files. So first we need to work with the Docker file. So we say nano. Again, any file you want to edit, use nano. Now I say Docker. So if I say capital D, O, and then I hit tab, it is going to autocomplete. So hit enter and you will have that. Now we go back to the post. Here we need to look for the Docker file code. So let's get that. It's on this initial stage. So I'm going to copy it. So just going to copy it from here. Go back here and paste it. All right. Now let's see what is happening in this code. So I go on top. We are using the PHP 8.3, which is the latest one currently. And we are then installing the extensions. So if we need to install, if you want to install any other extension, you can just add it here. Let's say if you want to add curl, you will say curl and something like this, and it will install that. For now, I'm just going to leave it as this command is. And after this command, we have the working directory. So we will be using inside container var www html folder, where we will put our code and we will work there. And from our main folder, currently from this instance, from the www directory is the directory where we have our PHP application that will be in sync with the HTML folder inside container. Okay, so we go down here. I'm also installing the composer. In case you want to install the composer, you will have to create composer.json file. For now, I'm not going to do that because our application is very basic and I don't want to go in any big PHP application for now in this video. So if you want to do it, you can run using, you will have to create composer.json file in that case. We are exposing to port 9000 here. All right. Now I want to save this file. So I say Control X and then Shift Y. Okay. Now if I go back to nano Docker file, you can see the content is there. Control X again. Anything related to these files and directory and this deployment, please follow this article. If you have any doubts, you will, those doubts will be cleared there as well. Okay, now let's work with the another file, which is the docker compose.yml. So we say nano, and then you say docker or anything, and then tab. Because this matches this name, there is no other folder like that or file like that, it auto completes. enter. The file is empty for now, so I go back to the post here. Here I'm gonna say, okay, give me the Docker Compose content. Now I go back, paste. Now let's see what is happening here. So first of all, we are saying we want to have 4 applications in this. First one is PHP application. So you can see here that we have the Docker file, and we are saying from the current directory, pick the Docker file and create a PHP application. And inside container, use folder HTML, and from the current directory, pick PHP code, which is present inside www. All right, that's what we are saying. Then we are saying run this application on port 9000, use app network as the network. So create a network, and every container we create in this file should be in this network. And use the database as MySQL, which is also in this file we see in a moment. So here we have Nginx. Nginx is saying, okay, we're gonna run this application and we're gonna run it on port 8080. So what I'm gonna do, instead of port 8080, I'm gonna make it to run it on port 80, so that we can see it when we go to the IP address. Straight away we see the application running. Then we have the same network, because each container needs to be the same in the same network, so that's why app network is here. Now this Nginx depends on the application. So application we have there, we are defining it here. So any name, so these are the names you're giving on the services. So here we said app, and that same app name we mentioned down here. All right. Then we said like this, it depends on MySQL, and the same way we are defining MySQL here. So here we say image, and these images basically Docker images, so it's going to get download from Docker Hub. The same way here it says MySQL 8.0, the same way it says here in Nginx 1.27.1, this is also going to download from there. In the case of our application, it is going to use the Docker file because it is our code, it is our application, so it is going to create the image. It's going to build it based on Docker file. All right. Now at last, let's say in here we are setting the database name. We are also setting user, we have password, and here we are saying restart always. So if container stops, it restarts automatically. And we are setting that the MySQL database is the container name. Same way we have the network, app network, and the ports defined here. We are also creating a volume here. Basically, this is to persist the data so that if a container restarts, we won't lose our data from the database. Now in the phpMyAdmin, we are using the image 5.2.1. We're giving container name as phpMyAdmin. We are telling that, okay, as a root user, use password is root user. All right, and run it on port 8081. Network, the same one, because all these needs to be in same network so that these containers can talk to each other. And then it depends on also on MySQL. And the volume we defined here, as well as the network that we are using. Okay, now what I do, Control X, it says yes, and hit enter. Check if the content is there. Content is there, all good. So far, now let's say ls. So we are done with these, and now only the Nginx folder needs to be done. So we go to cd Nginx ng, and I hit tab. Inside this folder I say ls. There is nothing there, so we need to create a file. So to create a file, we say touch and the file name. So if I go here, we have the file with the name of default.conf. So we need to create that. So just do that, default.conf. All right, now nano, and then D, and hit tab, enter. When you're inside it, just go here, and here you need to copy this Nginx code. Okay, copy, go back, paste. Now let's see what is happening in this file. So this file basically is saying inside container, it is going to listen to port 80. It is going to use the directory HTML, and these are the file types that it's going to use. And for the local host, this is the server name we are saying. port number is 9000 is picking on the app that we defined in Docker Compose file, if you remember. And that's how it is going to do, and it's going to serve on port 80 so that we will be able to see our application running there. Now Control X and Shift Y, hit enter and recheck nano default. We still have file content there, so we are all good to go. Now cd dash dash to come in one directory outside, ls here. Now in case you face any permission issues, you can do this, cd dash dash and ls. Now you can change sudo chmod minus capital R permission, so I say 777 PHP, and this 777 is not advisable, but I'm just doing it for this video here because I will be deleting this instance anyway. You can change this permission whichever you prefer. If you want 755 or any other, it's totally up to you. You can give it here. So I hit enter, and now if I say ls, you'll see that the color has changed. That's to represent that the permission is changed. And here if I go to PHP ls, all the files had the different permission. You can also see the permissions, like you say ls-l, and you can see the permissions as well. So all the write read permissions are given. Now what I want to do, I want to run the docker command, so we have our application running here. So I say docker. Now before running application, I clear the screen, ls. Make sure you are in the directory where these two files are present so that we can run our command. So we say here docker compose up -d --build, okay, and hit enter. Now it is going to download the required packages. For example, MySQL, it is downloading currently one by one, and after that it is going to run our application. Okay, so we need to wait till it completes. Depending on the internet speed, it will take some time here. Alright, so it downloaded everything. You can see downloaded your image and all the images required. It processed everything and downloaded MySQL as well. And at last, here you can see that for our application, it did the build, and it built the application from our Docker file step by step. So it ran all that, the working directory, copying the files, and at last it created the containers. So you can see that at last it says that all the containers are done. Alright guys, so what we need to do here is now we need to connect to the instance again. I go to the instance and I go and connect with it. And here is the IP address we will be using to connect to our application. I'll also show you the elastic IP, how you can assign. So for now, I'm just going to clear it, and I'm going to say here docker ps to see our containers. You can see all the containers are running just fine, and our application is running on port 8080 because Nginx is redirecting there. So if I go to this IP address and copy this and go into the browser, paste it there, hit it, I'll see that our application is not loading. It's giving us white screen. So let's see what is happening. So first I say ls here, go inside the application folder, then I need to go inside the code where our PHP application code is present, and there ls, and there I have two files. So by mistake I created another one, so I removed this touch file using rm, then t, and I remove it. Now we have ls index.php, I say nano, and I say index.php, open the file. It is blank, so it should have something in it. So let's put something that is given here. So we need to put this welcome message. So I copy this welcome message and go back here and I paste it. I save it, Control X and Shift Y, and then I check it as well, it's there, Control X again, go back here and refresh. So our application is right there. Okay, now if I go here, copy, and I paste it right here, and then I say port 8081, then we will get our PHP MyAdmin. Now for some reason it is not working because the port 8081 is not allowed at this point. And in AWS, when you're working and you need to use multiple ports, you need to be careful about that, because otherwise you will face issues and you won't be able to understand what is happening. Because if you see here, our container is running just fine. So we need to deal with these ports. So what I do for now, we can go into the containers, in AWS, and here in your instance, scroll down and go in security. Then you will see that you have a security group assigned. Click on that, and then there you have inbound rules. Click there, and here currently we have these 3 ports we are dealing with. So for now, either you can put that port which you want to allow, or you can allow all traffic. For now, I'm going to do the all traffic. So I allow all traffic, all ports, and I'll say everyone. So when I say save to this, it is saved. Go back here, refresh, and now you can see that we are able to connect. Now if you go back to our here ls, I need to get out of this folder cd dot, and then I say ls, and we have docker compose where we define everything, so we need to check here. So I say nano docker compose, and I'll scroll down. So for our MySQL, we have set up password root password. So we need to use this password to get in here. So it's a root password. So we pass name root password. In your case, you need to have some other password instead of root password because it's not safe. So you can see that we already have a database created. We can go there and create tables. So this database is appdb. Again, it is defined here. If you see here, database name appdb. And now we need to check that our application, this PHP application, is talking to this database or not. So for that, I go back to the post, and there we go down here. And here we need to update the PHP file again. So here is the given code. So just copy this code. So I'm going to copy this. I'm going to go back, and here Control X, and we need to go back to the cd www directory, ls index.php, so nano on it, and I want to remove this code. So Control K is something you can use to quickly remove the line, and then here Control and paste. Okay, so our code is here. Let's see what is happening. So we are saying server name is MySQL because that's what we defined there. Username is root that we passed inside it. You remember when we logged in. Password is the same, root user, and the app database name. Then we are making a connection. If successful, it will show that, okay, there is this database. And then we are getting the database name. So here we're saying current database, this database from the MySQL. So I say here Control X, and I save it Shift Y, and then I check it if the file saved. It's saved just fine. So I'm just gonna Control X again. All right, so our application is good. Go back here, refresh, and you can see now we have welcome to PHP app connected successfully to database. So our code is checking if we are making the connection to this application, that's working just fine, and the database it is fetching, so that's also fetching just fine. Now if you change and reboot your container and your instance, you might lose the IP address. To make sure your IP address stays the same all the time, you need to make an elastic IP. To do that, what you need to do is, so when we run any application on the AWS instance, it gets an IP, but it is not static IP, it's a dynamic IP. It can change. So if you reboot the instance, it can change there. So to make sure that the IP address stays the same, so for example, like I go back here, EC2 dashboard instances, there is the instance, and the if I click here, this is the IP address, right? Now I want to make sure, now what I do here basically, I want to make a static IP that stays the same, and whatever is the situation, it should be the same. So what I do, I go here in the elastic IP, and there I say allocate an IP, and then here I say allocate. You can give the tag name if you want, as it was given here. That's optional, but totally up to you. Allocate. Then here you say allocate elastic IP address. Oh, sorry, you need to go back. So here, this is the elastic IP assigned now. So what do we need to do? We need to click on it, and we need to associate this IP address with our instance. So click there. Now it says what do you want. We want to resource type is an instance, and we want to bind it with it. So we select that instance type. You can select it by name and ID. So I select it here, and I say associate. So I just click here, and it is binding it. So the IP address is this. Okay, so our application was running here. Now if I refresh, this should no longer be working on this port. But if I go back to this IP and paste this IP here, and then hit, you can see that application is now running on this port. Same way, the PHP my admin is running on the port 8080, and this was the IP address. Now I put here this IP address, and I hit enter. This will be working just fine as well. Alright, so if you go back to the previous IP address, it will keep on loading it because it's not there anymore. And if you go back, if you connect it to the command line, it will not work as well because this is connected to this IP and it is stopped. So if I try to do anything here, it is unresponsive. So I need to close it, go back here, and I need to go to the EC2 instance again, and then there connect again to this new command line to this IP address, and this IP address won't change. So you can set up a domain name and you can redirect on this IP address, so it will stick to this one, and that's how it works. In the command line, you're seeing this IP address is the private IP address. You don't need to use this one. You need to use the static public IP address. Okay. Hope this resolves the confusion. This is what you need. So if you like the video, do subscribe. See you in the next one. Thank you.